Well, I've got my trusty little aid here, and I wanted to quickly go over what we're talking about, or have been talking about. We just finished talking about perimeter. I think it was even one of our vocab words or language words somewhere. I've seen it. But the perimeter. I have my handy little aid here, and this is a rectangle. The perimeter of this rectangle. Perimeter means distance around the edge. Distance around the edge. What's the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle? It is, we have to add this distance, the length, and this distance, another length. That means there's two lengths. And then we have to add this distance, the width, and this distance, a width. So there's two lengths and there's two widths on a rectangle. And so the way that we find the perimeter, which means the distance around the edge, is to multiply the length times 2, because we have two lengths. And then we multiply the width times 2, because we have two widths. And then we add them together. So you would see the formula would be perimeter of a rectangle would be 2 times L, the length, and you figure that out, and then you do 2 times the width, and you figure that out, and then you add them together, and it gives you the total perimeter, the distance around the edge. Now for a square, it's much easier, because the square, all the sides are equal, correct? And so we have this side, and this side, and this side, and that side. That's 4 sides. Since they're all equal, you could add those sides 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, or you could just say the perimeter of a square is 4 times the length of one side. Does that make sense? I hope so. Well, that's perimeter. That's a real quick overview. Now I want to talk about area. The area of something is found in your lesson today by finding out how many little squares are inside of that object. And we started off with area of a rectangle today in lesson 261, or page 261. That's lesson 145. And they talk about the area of a rectangle. And so the way to do it is count all those little squares inside that rectangle on page 261, and you come up with 54 squares in that rectangle. Well, that gets to be pretty cumbersome if we're going to do that every single time that we see a rectangle or a square, okay? And so I don't want to sit there and do that, draw a bunch of little squares inside of a rectangle all the time. So of course they come up with a neat formula for finding the area of a square. Notice, and a rectangle. Notice the area is different from perimeter. Perimeter, we're just adding up the lengths of all the sides. In the area, we're finding out how many little squares are inside of the rectangle. So hopefully in the video today that was pretty clear, but I just wanted to go over it again. In the area of a rectangle is equal to the length times the width. So I have this handy dandy little rectangle here, and here's the length, and here's the width. And all we have to do to find the area is to multiply the length times the width. And when we do that, in the example they show, the length is 9 units and the width is 6 units. Length times width, 9 times 6, 54 squares. And so that's what we always have to keep in mind for area. When we find the area, we have to talk about square units. And so if it's 9 feet long and 6 feet wide, that's 54 square feet. So kind of keep that in mind. Boy, I don't know what that is in my eye. Oh, it's my finger. Oh, well. Okay, now on that page, 261, I've asked you in the lesson to try and memorize those facts. Inches times inches are square inches, so all those facts, and then learn these measurements. 144 square inches equals 1 square foot, because a square foot is just 1 foot on each side, And how many inches in a foot? 12. So 12 inches times 12 inches would give you 144 square inches. That's equal to 1 square foot. So keep those things in mind and try to memorize those. So squaring something, I have my little black pen here that I want to try and show you. If I want to square something, that's what, when you see a number with a little 2 up above it. So if I have like 4 and I say the little 2 up top like that, that's 4 squared. And that simply means multiply the number by itself. So 4 squared means, and I'll put an arrow over here to show you 4 squared means 4 times 4. And what is that equal to? 16. Okay? So when you square a number, when you see 4 with a little 2, that means 4 squared. That means 4 times 4, 16. So squaring is pretty easy. I'll get my handy dandy eraser here. We'll do another one just for an example. Let's try squaring the number 9. So I would have 9 squared. And what does that mean? That means 9 times 9. So 9 times 9 is equal to 81. Very good. So 9 squared is 81. Well, that's how we square things. And then mathematicians, and you know this because you're in my class, they don't leave simple things alone. We have to do another step called square roots. And we'll be getting into that, I believe, tomorrow's lesson. We'll talk about square roots. Or it's coming down the line. I think it's in 2 lessons, actually. But I will just review it real quickly here. It's really not that hard. The square root symbol looks like this. Okay, and so they have the square root symbol and a number underneath that square root symbol. In this case, let's just say 9. So if they say, what is the square root of 9, they're asking you to find the number that you multiply by itself that gives 9 as the answer. So basically what you're looking at is this is the answer. Square root of 9 is the answer. What number do I multiply by itself to get 9? Well, let me think. I think 3 times 3 equals 9. So that means the square root of 9 is equal to 3. All right, so the square root of 9 is equal to 3. Now let's do another example. What's the square root of 144? I think you guys know this one. Square root of 144. So they're asking, when you see this symbol, what are they asking? They're asking what number multiplied by itself gives you 144. And you know what that is, right? That's right, 12 times 12. So 12 times 12 equals 144. So the square root of 144 is 12. So the square root of 144 is 12. Let's do the square root of something a little easier, 25. Can you tell me what that is now? It means what number, when you multiply it by itself, will give you 25? 5. All right. So that's a quick little overview on perimeter, distance around the edge, and the area. Okay. And then we know how to square a number. That's with the little 2 up on top. That means multiply the number by itself. So 3 squared means 3 times 3. That's 9. When you see the square root symbol like this, then you're kind of going backwards and you're figuring out what number I have to multiply to get this. And so the square root of 25 is 5. Okay? Because 5 times 5 is 25. All right, guys. Well, maybe the guy in the video will help that to become a little clearer. I hope that clears it up. And as always, you can text me or send me an email if that's confusing. And I'll be glad to talk to you on the phone. And I'm trying to do packets and get those ready for you to pick up on Thursday. Hey, have a great week.